All right, and we are live. We're doing it. Yeah, there it is. Monday. Hi, Lucy. My co-host Lucy on the ones and twos saying, hey, what's up, Karen? You're first. Good job. You nailed it. Well done. Howdy, Spider. Hope everyone had a fantastic weekend and is ready for a fun old Music Monday. What's up, Purple Clouds? I thought that said chords for a second. What's up, William? What's up, Edwin? What's up, DLJ? It's 2 a.m. where you're at, man. Where are you at? What's up, Daniel? How are you? And what's up, Lucy? She wants me to know she's here. What's up, Alex? What's up, Vegan Tanya? What's up, Karen, again? Long Beach, how's it going? I did not get to go see Billy Bragg, no. I wanted to, but I don't know. Tickets were kind of pricey. What's up, Mystic Warrior? Come to Tallahassee and do a gig show. Oh, we can get some punk bands and make sure you guys are well paid. All right, drop me an email. Yeah, drop me an email. What's up, Andrew? What's up, Citrus? What's up, Lady? What's up, Susie? K-Line, blizzard. Oh, man, it's a blizzard in your area. I'm sorry to hear that. What's up, David? What's up, Skip? What's up, Andy? What's up, Jeffrey? Good to see everybody. I know, Lucy. It's hard. Here. You want to sit? Hey, look who's here. Look how happy. Look how happy she is, just chilling. I took a picture of her in her yellow vest, by the way. If anybody was wondering, I took a picture of her in her vest. It is on my Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram at Ron Placone. And I also tweeted it as well. So there are pictures of Lucy in her vest. And we are over 30. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. You guys have been sending me a lot of cool stuff. It is Music Monday. And we got a few music stories, which is really groovy. We got some music stuff going on. That is fun. And I'm really stoked to look into this because I know this was in the news. I know this happened this past weekend, but I did not hear anything about it until right now. So I'm seeing this headline for the first time. Let's go to it. Doing Venezuela benefits vie over talent and the country's fate. All right, so I knew there were some concerts going on near the border. That's all I knew. I didn't really know the details. So let's see what happened this past weekend. David shares this. Venezuela Aid Live organizer Richard Branson and Latin pop performers defend their all-star benefit in the face of a rival government-backed gig and harsh criticism from Roger Waters. Roger Waters of Pink Floyd, who has been very critical of what's going on in Venezuela, very outspoken about Israel-Palestine. Roger Waters is, and very outspoken for Julian Assange. Roger Waters has some pretty cool things to say. All right, so ever since George Harrison's 2 concerts for Bangladesh in 1971, charity concerts have been a pop music staple. Most have been straightforward in their goals of relieving suffering at a particular spot on the globe, but rarely have pop benefits been as complicated as the 2 dueling concerts for Venezuela scheduled for this weekend, which pit country against country, and even Roger Waters against one of the organizers. Interesting. Okay, so let's see the details. Venezuela is unquestionably in the midst of a crisis. Hyperinflation, food shortages, and a government crackdown have resulted in a mass and ongoing exodus. And last month, Juan Guaido, head of the National Assembly, declared himself the interim head of state. Nicolas Maduro had been sworn in. In light of alleged election tampering, Maduro's legitimacy had been questioned, especially by dozens of other nations, including the U.S. I mean, not everybody can have elections as honest as the United States of America. Not everyone can have elections as good as ours. I mean, really, like our election system, it's flawless. You never hear about anything going wrong. Never, right? It's never happened. Has it? I'm sure it had. Of course not. All right. All right. So far, Maduro has remained in power and retained control over the military, and his government has insisted that the country is not melting down and does not need foreign aid. He has even used the military to block ports and bridges that would be pipelines for any supplies. So this troubling scenario is the backdrop of Venezuela Aid Live, a benefit show that will take place today. So what was the date on this? So this is from February 22nd. So this happened over the weekend. Near a bridge in the Colombian town of Cucuta, which borders on Venezuela. Organized by Virgin Group founder, entrepreneur, and philanthropist Richard Branson, the event, with a title that intentionally recalls the 1985 Live Aid show, will feature nearly 36 Latin music acts, including veteran and Grammy winner Alejandro Sanz, Puerto Rican ballader Luis Fonsi, Colombian superstar Juans, and many others. And then there's other people that are going to be on the show. Making matters a little more confusing, Maduro's government announced a hands-off Venezuela concert to take place on the other side of that same bridge. Although it is also set for today with the second show Saturday, no acts have yet been announced. And some people are speculating that Maduro might perform. So Branson, who says he has known quite a few Venezuelans, says he was inspired to organize Venezuela Aid Live by those connections. They are in pain seeing their country go from being the most successful in South America to one that's in abject poverty. This is Richard Branson speaking. I'm fortunate that I can pick up the telephone and get through to anyone in the world and get resources. Richard Branson's kind of an off-putting guy. We all know that about him. Branson says the goal of the multiple-hour show will be to raise $100 million for food and medicine for Venezuelans who need them, and pressure the military into letting them be distributed. Okay. If you've got cancer or diabetes, there are no medicines left. The whole idea of the concert is to persuade the soldiers to do what's right. Earlier this week, Waters openly criticized Branson, asserting the benefit has nothing to do with humanitarian aid at all. It has to do with Richard Branson having bought the U.S., saying, "We've decided to take over Venezuela for whatever our reasons may be. Do we really want Venezuela to turn into another Iraq or Syria or Libya? I don't, and neither do the Venezuelan people." In response, Branson said he's a good musician. This is Richard Branson referring to Roger Waters. But he honestly doesn't know what's going on in the world. He said Venezuelans were not suffering, and yet every single international organization has condemned the election and people are suffering. I'm afraid he's blind to what's going on in Venezuela. As to what he would like to see happen in the country, Branson said, I would like to see free and fair elections monitored by the international community that can put a government in charge that can make Venezuela great again and make it the #1 country in South America again. With the right leadership, that can happen. This is Richard Branson speaking. Asked about Waters' comments, Alejandro Sanz at first laughs. I think they spent a lot of time in the 70s. But Sanz soon turns more somber. It would be great if these people who criticize what we have been doing would at least for a year not live in a big mansion but with people. Then they can form an opinion. Okay. So I'm not familiar with this Alejandro Sanz person, but all right, I guess that's their take on it. Sanz isn't alone in openly condemning Maduro. I'm not normally a political person, but this is a humanitarian problem. Hopefully it will get better. What would help would be for the president to leave. He's a dictator. As a Colombian, I experienced the Venezuelan drama up close. I think it's time for the people to regain their freedom and stability. Sanz, who was born in Spain, has his own tangled history with Venezuela. In 2004, Sanz commented on the way then-President Hugo Chavez was interfering with a recall referendum on his election, and Sanz later accused the government of sabotaging 2 of his concerts in that country by making it impossible for his crew to book hotels. Of Bronson's efforts, Son says, first and foremost, their goal is humanitarian aid to enter the country, then becomes unapologetically political as well. The second thing is that the Venezuelan army finally comes to the aid and takes the side of Guaido and takes the oppressor out of the country. So this is typically not what concerts like that are supposed to do. So now I see where this conflict comes from, as in the two competing concerts. Typically, concerts like this aren't supposed to take a side like that. Their side is supposed to be, look, we're just here to help. We just want a peaceful resolution. We just want to help. They typically, at least in verbiage, are not supposed to, quote-unquote, take sides. So in this particular, for instance, they wouldn't be siding, when you kind of have, a civil conflict. They would not necessarily take a side in this case. Regardless how you feel about how that conflict started, regardless of the players involved, regardless of, it's an illegal coup that the United States backed, regardless of all that, in this particular case, when you're putting on a concert to help the citizens, you typically would not see that concert taking a side. They would just be like, look, we just want a peaceful resolution. The musicians would certainly have their opinions, and some may feel like Roger Waters does. Some may feel like that other musician in the article. I'm not familiar with them, but you'll have that. Musicians will have opinions. Some musicians may have different opinions than others, but the concert itself would not have an agenda for one side or the other. I feel like that's what you would expect in a situation like this, but that's not they're calling for military action. So that's a little atypical, and not in a good way. So I see why Roger Waters was not in favor. All right, so but at least for this weekend, all right, so Branson says he is in the early stages of another Venezuela Aid Live, this time in Miami, with bigger international artists. But at least for this weekend, Branson is focused on Venezuela Aid Live. It should be a joyous occasion, he says. It's going to be raw, since things will be raw if you only have a few weeks to plan, but we hope that with music and a little bit of love, we can help get supplies over. Whether we will succeed or not, we'll see. Okay, well, if your goal is just to help the people that live there, say that. That's totally fine if a concert just wants to help people. If a concert's just like, we just want to help people, we just want to raise resources for them, we're going to be doing whatever, and that's it. But if your goal is to, side with Juan Guaido and calling for the military to then turn against well, I can see why there's a lot of opposition to that. So, well, and let's see if there's any updates here, because this was written a couple days ago. And I'm curious to see how the concerts ended. Let's see. Oh, someone posted the whole thing on YouTube. That's kind of interesting. And I'm not seeing any updates. Yeah, I'm not finding any updates. If anyone has any updates more recent than that, please do tweet it over. I'm not seeing any. I'm not finding any. So I'd be curious to know what happened. I'd be curious to know where the turnouts landed. But But yeah. All right. I guess that's all we know so far. We'll see if there's more later this week. So here's something else music related, music adjacent, and also Venezuela adjacent. Boots Riley had some things to say. So Boots Riley finishes an incendiary Venezuela-centered Spirit Award speech backstage. So this was for the Independent Spirit Awards, Film Independent Spirit Awards. At Saturday's award ceremony, the Sorry to Bother You director, Boots Riley, decried potential intervention in the South American country. When Boots Riley won the Film Independent Spirit Award for the Best First Feature on Saturday, he closed his acceptance speech with an impassioned plea to pay attention to the unfolding tension currently happening in Venezuela. Nicolas Maduro, currently Venezuela's president, is under international pressure to lift restrictions on resources into the country. The border between Venezuela and Colombia have been closed, signaling that further escalation may be imminent. While the ceremony cut Riley off before he could finish his speech, the director expanded on his sentiments backstage. To assembled press, here's what Riley said. Obviously, the CIA, every time they targeted a country for regime change, they tell you the same things. They tell you the same things in Iraq. They tell you the same things they did in Chile in 1973. They all say they've lost support, they're dictators, we're just helping people. We know, come on, everybody knows that's not true. Right now, under the guise of humanitarian aid, they're doing the same thing the U.S. did in Guatemala in the 80s, which was sneak guns to right-wing forces in Central America through what they call humanitarian aid. Now, when the Russians were trying to get humanitarian aid into Ukraine a few years ago, the MSM out here correctly said, oh, we know they're sneaking guns in that way. All of a sudden, no one's saying the same thing in the mainstream media. The people of Venezuela are the ones who should be deciding who rules them. The U.S. has been working with opposition forces there for years. Riley went on to discuss how that message connects to Sorry to Bother You, a film that is not shy about its strong political underpinnings. Growing up, I got involved in a lot of movements that showed me that all the struggles that we're talking about are related to material things and the things we can actually change, and that the root of our power has to do with what we're doing every day, which is creating profit for someone, Riley said. We can have power react to us by stopping that, through organizing on the job and having movements that use withholding of labor as a tactic and a strategy for social change. Those are the things I've learned, and those are in that movie. So there you go, Boots Riley, making some pretty good points on Venezuela. And that's why, again, and we can connect this to the first thing we talked about, if you're going to have a benefit concert for the people, it should just be a benefit concert for the people. You shouldn't then say, and we hope the military... No. You want to have a benefit to help people, you do just that. You know, the musicians involved can state their opinions. Some might feel like Roger Waters and Boots Riley. Some may feel differently. But, you know, you kind of... The correct thing to do in that situation would take the humanitarian approach to the people. And he voices the concerns that many share in regards to the U.S.-backed aid. So, thank you, Boots Riley. All right, switching gears. So somebody sent this piece in for by pointing out that it's not, that it's kind of like one of those pieces that we're not going to be fans of. So far, I've just seen the headline, and I have a feeling I'm not going to enjoy it very much. So that's fun. We like dissecting stuff like this. So here's the headline from Slate. Every Democrat should talk about healthcare like Amy Klobuchar does. Cloud boot jar. Okay. Why should we do that? Every candidate should talk about all the things they don't want us to have. Talk about healthcare like Amy Klobuchar does. All right. Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar ramped up her new presidential campaign Monday with a CNN town hall appearance, during which she was, of course, asked about Medicare for All. Her answer was pretty much what one would expect, given that she's branding herself as a practical moderate. In other words, she's not for Medicare for All. Okay, lefty Twitter was predictably displeased. There was a lot of thank you next. Okay. But even if you didn't particularly like the substance of Klobuchar's response, I didn't, I think she deserves credit for being forthright. Democrats would be better off if more candidates talked about health care with her level of candor. How so? Okay. After a bit of throat clearing about how many Americans still can't afford health coverage or health care, Klobuchar explained that her immediate goal was to build on Obamacare by creating a public insurance option. She even had a specific bill in mind, Senator Brian Chance's Medicaid buy-in, which she has co-sponsored. Okay, so here's what she said. What we need is to expand coverage so people can have a choice for a public option. And that's a start. You can do it with Medicare. You can do it many ways, but you can also do it with Medicaid, something I don't think we're talking about enough as a potential solution. This is a bill that that's enough. Schatz's bill is interesting, slightly sideways approach to healthcare reform that has advantages and disadvantages compared with versions that focus on Medicare. I wrote a longer piece about the legislation back in 2017. This is the author speaking here. There's also a big obvious drawback to the plan. Just as they've resisted Obama's Medicaid expansion, a lot of red states might reject Schatz's care. So that's the buy-in option, the public buy-in option, which, by the way, Obamacare, quote-unquote, should have had in the first place. If you really want to build... Here we go. This should be the headline. If you really want to build a public option, it may be simpler and more effective to create a federal program. So, do you realize what that sentence was, right? That sentence should be the headline. If you really want a public option, we should just have a federal program, i.e. Medicare for all. So this person actually just admitted in one sentence that the rest of their article is essentially bullshit. And whenever you see all this, oh, it's just so complicated. It's just what we can do is we can have a public buy-in option that some states might take and some states might not. And then if you carry the two and divide the earliest decibel and then go to the house and ask everybody who their firstborn is and you give them health care and then you give half a health care plan to the middle child, then the youngest child still doesn't have health care, but they're younger, so it's fine. If we do all that, that might be a better path. No. A better path is Medicare for all. It's so complicated, really. Every other industrialized country figured it out. Every other industrialized country figured it out. No, it's not. No, it's not. You know what is complicated? What's complicated, and the reason it's complicated is because it's impossible, is to allow predatory insurance companies at the table and have a system that covers everybody. That's the complicated part. You know why? Because it ain't going to happen. And whenever you see articles like this, they're doing the mental gymnastics to try to keep the insurance companies at the table. Because that's what they want. They want the insurance companies at the table. We can't have them at the table. They got to go away. That's the only reason it's, quote, complicated. It's complicated according to the people who want to keep our status quo. That's who it's complicated for. All right, let's see if there's any more to this dumb article. All right, so even if I don't love Klobuchar's policy instincts on this issue, I do appreciate that she bothered to explain what specific direction she would push healthcare reform in as president. Okay. Almost every candidate has been asked whether they support Medicare for all, but almost none of them, with exception to unofficial contender Senator Sherrod Brown, have explained in detail what their fallback plan is if it becomes clear that a Sanders-style single-payer bill or something almost as ambitious, trying to, for the richest country in the world to have the health care most countries take for granted. That's really ambitious. Can't pass Congress, which between the filibuster, okay, blah, 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 blah. There's so much going. I'm not saying it could never pass, but I'm saying it might not pass. That's unfortunate because there are big differences. Okay, wow. All right. Medicare buy-in for 50. All right. Yeah, I've had enough of this. I like what the fuck? I could read this thing. we could conduct an experiment. If I read that article cover to cover, every single word, I wouldn't make it. I'd fall asleep. You would hear a sound, and it would just be a thud, because I would have the article showing, not my face. You would hear a thud, and you'd be like, Ron just passed out on the fucking keyboard. Wait, I'm sorry. You might not hear that thud, because all of you will be asleep too. That's one disadvantage of doing a show like this, where I'm seeing everything for the first time, and it's improv news, and it's just kind of visceral, and we all create it together. Sometimes an article might be full of so much word salad that we just gave all of ourselves indigestion. I have indigestion right now. Some of you might have the shits, because I just shoved word salad down all of our throats. And I'm sorry for that. The person who shared this article was like, hey, this article sucks. Let's do a dissection. So that's what we're doing. And now we all have the shits. Now we all have the verbal diarrhea shits. And it was given to us by this dude. What's the article? The guy that wrote this article. Jordan Weissman. I'm pretty sure we've read other articles from that guy. And I'm pretty sure I've not been a fan of any of them. Oh, and here. Look at how this ends. Here, get ready. All right, sorry. Get your Tums. I got you. Here we go. Look at how this ends. Cloud Butchar might be aiming a bit low on healthcare. Yeah, you think? As far as some Democrats are concerned. But they should give her credit. At least she's telling them enough to know where she stands. This article could have been 4 sentences. This article could be like, well, a federal plan would be easier, but we want to do something way more complicated to keep the insurance companies around. At least Cloud Butchar is openly admitting she doesn't want to give you healthcare. That could have been the entire article. That could have been the whole, hey, I acknowledge that Medicare for All is better. I acknowledge that. That should have just been the headline. It should have just been a picture of Amy Klobuchar with her dumb opinions on healthcare. Her ridiculous take on it. And then it could have just been like, oh, a federal plan would be better, by the way. By the way, federal. It's just so complicated. Well, unless we do this one thing. It's real complicated unless we do this one thing. You know what? Making soup is really complicated. Unless you just put it in a fucking pot and turn on a stove. Then it's pretty easy. If you don't do that, though, it's real fucking complicated. Do you see how little sense that makes? Hey, it's really complicated unless you take the obvious solution that makes sense. Making soup would be really fucking complicated. I made soup in a coffee maker once. It was really fucking complicated. It was really hard. It didn't go well. And it tasted shitty because it tasted like coffee. And I didn't think about that part, which was really dumb on my part. But it becomes really complicated. Hey, make soup, but you can't use fire or electricity. You can't use warmth. Try to make it. You got to get a blow dryer for a long fucking time, I'd imagine. That'll probably never work. Or like put it in front of a heater, hope for the best. Man, making soup becomes really complicated. Well, unless you do the obvious way to make soup. Unless you do the obvious, put it in a pot, turn it on, boom, done. Healthcare is really complicated. Well, unless you do that thing that every other industrialized nation in the world has done. Unless you kind of do that, have that obvious nucleus that every other industrialized country has done. If you do that, then it's yeah. If we had a federal plan, that'd be great. But you know what? There's these public buy-in options, and some of them are age restricted. Some of them your state has to decide. Some red states might not decide to. I mean, what's going to be next? Well, it's based on zip code and blood type, and you get a health credit. It's real complicated unless we do that thing that every other country's done. Unless we just use the roadmap that pretty much every other nation has done. Then it's not complicated anymore, randomly. Jordan should write an article. Jordan Weissman should write an article. Soup is complicated if you have to make it without a stove. By Jordan Weissman. And then he talks about all the... It's really fucking... I don't know. I should write that article. I'm going to figure out a way how to make soup without a stove. I mean, you could just make a cold soup. So there we go. All right. And, since we're talking about really fun politicians, we got to give a shout out to Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio really made a nice splash on social media. Marco Rubio openly calls for Maduro to suffer Gaddafi's fate. So, this is the image Marco Rubio tweeted. He tweeted for us to assassinate a leader. And remember what they did to Gaddafi. They sodomized him and killed him. Marco Rubio tweets this to send Venezuela a message. This is what an elected official in the most powerful country in the world that is known for being war profiteers, that is known for being an empire around the world. He tweets this out. Marco Rubio openly calls for Maduro to suffer Gaddafi's fate. All right. Influential U.S. Senator and 2016 presidential candidate Marco Rubio, until he got his ass handed to him in multiple debates. Man, that's Marco Rubio. It does not surprise me that a tweet came from such a small person. And I mean small in the metaphorical sense. I mean, I'm sure I think he's actually kind of tall, but I mean small in the sense of principles and courage. Marco Rubio is such a cowardly human. And that has been proven time and time again. I mean, when you saw he wouldn't have a town hall. And when he was confronted about it, he was like, you guys are just so rude to me. You're an elected official. You're going to have to put up with people criticizing you and at times yelling at you. And yes, at times being rude to you. If you can't handle that, you're not fit for the job. Lucy gets it. Marco Rubio had to hide. He had to lie about where he was. Remember when that happened? Remember when Marco Rubio said he was out of the country because he didn't want to have a town hall? He wasn't. And then people called him out about it. He was like, oh, you guys are just rude. And then remember when he got his ass handed to him on the debate stage by Chris Christie? Chris Christie. Donald Trump handed Marco Rubio's ass in. Chris Christie, Donald Trump. I'm sorry, how do you really think you're an elected official? You can't out-debate Chris Christie or Donald Trump. Really? Marco Rubio, just in that GOP clown car, could not hold his own. He, got his ass handed to him by pretty much everybody. Herman Cain was asleep. You had Jeb Bush, who is just a completely useless blank suit and almost started crying. Remember on that debate stage, Jeb Bush almost just started crying. Because there was no one in his family there to defend him. You had Herman Cain, he was just asleep. He was just sitting there asleep. You had Rand Paul, who's actually anti-war, so they wouldn't let that guy speak. I mean, Rand Paul, I disagree with him on pretty much everything except for interventionism. But, that's at least there was something I had in common with someone on that stage. Then you had Donald Trump, who is Donald Trump. And then you had, Chris Christie, which, Chris Christie has proven time and time again. He walks himself into circles constantly. He can't handle somebody yelling at him at a baseball game. You can't out-debate that dude. Marco Rubio couldn't. Marco Rubio is one of those guys you're like, how did this dude get elected? So Marco Rubio is a very small person, so he needs to send out tweets like these to feel big. He ain't in Venezuela himself. So let's get back to this article, though. We all know how pathetic Marco Rubio is. All right, so the tweet, we know what the tweet is. It consists of a before and after photo of former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, who in 2011 was mutilated to death in the streets following a U.S.-led NATO intervention in Libya, which was launched on false humanitarian pretext. If we don't learn from history, we're due to repeat it. That's a cliche, but it's a really fucking true one, by the way. The first photo depicts Gaddafi alive and confident with a smile on his face. The second, all right, we know what it is. And Senator Rubio has been Capitol Hill's single most virulent advocate of U.S. interventionism in Venezuela. Now, this article points out a couple truths here. So, first of all, Maduro is not refusing humanitarian aid for his people. He's just not accepting it from a country who's supporting an illegal coup against him. He's not accepting it from the United States. And this article also points out if the United States actually wanted to get aid to Venezuela, they could do it via different ways, via other countries. If all they wanted to do was actually get aid to Venezuela. Because the obvious concern is that ain't what they're looking to do. They're looking to bring weapons in there. What are they basing off of that off of? Well, everything we've done in the past. And the fact that we support an illegal coup in the first place. So let's see if there's anything more to this article in specific. So here's that specific paragraph. I'll read that specific paragraph to you instead of summarizing it. In reality, Maduro has been accepting aid from everywhere except from the government that is openly staging a coup in his country in gross violation of its natural sovereignty. Just last week, Caracas accepted 933 tons of food and medical supplies from China, Cuba, India, and Turkey, and Russia has shipped in 300 tons of aid on its own. So there you go. And I think this sentence kind of sums it up. Marco Rubio does not give a shit about the Venezuelan people. Marco Rubio does not give a shit about the Venezuelan people. Marco Rubio does not give a shit about the American people. Marco Rubio does not give a shit about anybody but Marco Rubio and the special interests that feed Marco Rubio. I mean, I can't think, and keep in mind, the bar is lower than low. But I think Marco Rubio is among the most despicable elected officials in the contemporary U.S. right now. And again, I mean, the bar is so incredibly low. How do you give a gold star to somebody? I mean, it's pretty freaking hard to do. You know, considering the crop we got right now. But Marco Rubio's up there. I'd say he's definitely in the top 10, maybe even the top 5, high fidelity style. All right, here's a fun one. I know what you guys are thinking as 2020 is upon us. And everything that's going on. You guys are thinking, what does Warren Buffett think? I really need to know what the rich people are saying so that they can guide me in my decision making. They have all the money. It gives them a lot of time to think. I like it if they think for me. That helps me out, makes me feel good. So what is Warren Buffett saying? Well, Warren Buffett's saying, I would support Bloomberg if he ran for president. Okay. Businessman Warren Buffett on Monday said he would back former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg if he ran for the Democratic presidential nomination. If Mike Bloomberg announced tomorrow that he was a candidate, I would say I'm for him, Buffett told CNBC. I think he would be a very good president. The Berkshire Hathaway CEO and longtime supporter of the Democratic Party said he and Bloomberg differ on some issues, but he believes the former mayor knows how to run things. Buffett added that he's hopeful no third-party candidate runs in 2020. I think third-party candidates can thwart, actually, the will of the people. We need the rich guy to tell us who is and isn't entitled to democracy. I wish the headline was just like, hey, really rich guy hopes nobody thinks they're entitled to participate in democracy. Really rich guy hopes that one of his rich friends runs, who he knows is going to protect his tax bracket, and he really hopes that nobody else thinks they're entitled to try to participate in democracy. Thinks that they have a right to participate in democracy in the United States of America. Really rich guy says that, and we print it. Why? Because we're a bunch of stenographers. The fact that an article like this even exists is a problem. It's a fucking problem. And you know why it's a problem? Because the corporate media is pretending that some of the 2020 candidates don't exist. They're pretending Tulsi Gabbard's not even in the running. They're smearing Bernie every opportunity they get. But then they write pieces like this, letting us know what Warren Buffett thinks. Who gives a fuck? Who cares? I say as I'm reading an article about it. But we're dismantling it. That's the thing, huh? All right, so Warren Buffett hopes no one thinks that they have a right to a democracy because he wants one of his rich friends to be in there. Bloomberg has not yet indicated whether he will run for president in 2020. He will probably make that announcement to the sound of people snoring, but has said he will run as a Democrat if he chooses to do so. You know why? Because it's a wide umbrella. The Democratic Party is a wide umbrella. They have rich people and really rich people and conservative people and kind of conservative people. And they have progressives that are trying to get in there, and that's where they close the fucking umbrella. That's where they're like, all right, get out of the tent now. They're like, hey, pro-lifer, there's room in our wide tent for you. Come in here, pro-lifer, we're fine with you. Hey, person who's a conservative fiscally, there's always been room for you. Come on in. Wall Street, we got plenty of room in the tent. Come on, Wall Street, get in the tent, Wall Street, get in the tent. Get in the tent. Fossil fuel lobby, get in the tent. We're a big tent. We're business people, get in the tent. Get in the tent. Plutocrats, get in the tent. Get in the progressives. Oh shit, I think we're full. I think we filled up the tent. Ah, shit. Sorry. We got a big tent, but only so big. Progressives, you gotta go. There's too many of you. We can't fit you in the tent. There's too many of you guys. That's the truth, by the way. That's the truth. All right, so this article, Democrats have criticized Schultz, that's Howard Schultz, warning that his candidacy could pull votes from their candidate in 2020 and help Trump win re-election, because Schultz might run as an independent unless the Democrats run a centrist. A number of high-profile candidates have already waded into the 2020 presidential race, including Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, Kristen Gillibrand, Cory Booker, Amy Klobuchar, and Bernie Sanders. Of course, they don't mention Tulsi Gabbard. This article doesn't even mention Tulsi Gabbard, but they do mention what Warren Buffett thinks. And what does Warren Buffett think? Hey, I hope one of my rich friends runs for president, and I hope nobody else thinks they have a right to democracy. I really hope nobody thinks they have a right to democracy, because who has a right to democracy? Me and my rich friends. The headline of this article should be, really rich guy openly admits that we have a plutocracy. That could have been the headline of this article, but it's not going to be. Why? Because the corporate media caters to the rich and the elite. Because they're all part of that club. I mean, at the top they are, not literally everybody. I'm not implying that every person that writes for The Hill is a millionaire. I'd imagine that's not the case, but you know what I mean. Oh, man. What a doozy this article is, huh? Warren Buffett. I hope one of my rich friends runs. So let's redo the headline here. Warren Buffett. I hope one of my rich friends runs. P.S. We're the only people entitled to democracy. Warren Buffett. Doesn't that inspire you? Doesn't that get you to the polls? Hearing who billionaires want gets me to the polls. All right. Let's go to the chat, see what you guys are saying to end the show today. Lucy is taking a shower. Someone asked, is someone making bacon? The stove is in use. Yes. Garden Gnome says, Tulsi has been shafted by everyone. That's true. Sanders Gabbard 2020 could see that, says MN. That's what I'm hoping for. Here's how I feel, and I've been saying the same thing for a while now. I think that if progressives do not have the strongest possible push and are as united as they can possibly be, which means Bernie Tulsi together, I don't think we're going to make it out of a primary. I don't think so. So, for optics-wise, I think that Tulsi Prez, Bernie VP is the strongest thing. I've said many times, and I'll say it again, I would support it either way. Whether it's Bernie Prez, Tulsi VP, or the other way around, I'm going to support it. And I think that if we don't have the strongest unified push, and I hate to use that type of verbiage because that's something the Democratic establishment says to try to get us to shut the fuck up and just do what they want. But as far as progressives go, that's why Bernie has such a powerhouse team behind him. That's why he has Nina Turner and Ro Khanna. He's trying to get the heavy hitters behind him because he knows that if we don't have the biggest push, then we're not going to get out of the primary. Augustus says that Sanders hinted at Tulsi as his running mate. Good. I haven't heard that, but I'm glad to hear it. And I hope that's true. Hey, Ron. Let me see here. Does this even work, says Citrus Peppercorn. It sure does. Ron, I'm going to see you and Graham in Pensacola. That's awesome. Will there be a poster I can get at the show for you to sign or something? Yeah, there's going to be postcards. There's going to be stickers. There's going to be T-shirts. There's going to be all kinds of stuff. Plenty of stuff that I'd be more than happy to sign for you, Citrus Peppercorn. And I will see you in Pensacola. And I'm stoked. I'm real excited for that show. We're heading to the Gulf. I'll plug the tour dates here in a minute. Celeste, thank you for the Super Chat contribution. And Celeste says, please send even just $1 to Tulsi. Ray Foley says, hey, Ron, should have true progressive in Chicago ward where you and Jimmy are performing in July at Thalia Hall. Find out tomorrow. It'd be cool to have him there for the show. Okay, cool, Ray. Sounds good. Oh, and some of you guys are saying it's not like they would be a completely announced ticket in the primary. And yes, I understand that. I'm just saying they need to, there needs to be a plan in place, is what I'm saying. If we want to get out of a primary. That's what I think. I wish that wasn't the case, but that's what I think is the reality. All right. We are totally out of time. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I have a lot of stuff coming up. So some tour dates coming up. RonPlacone.com for all those tour dates. March, we're going to be in the Gulf. Pensacola, Florida with Citrus Peppercorn. I'll see you there. Oxford, Mississippi. Lafayette, Louisiana. New Orleans, Louisiana. Get tickets now at RonPlacone.com. April, we're touring Texas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Austin, and Houston. RonPlacone.com for those tickets. Salt Lake City and Boise, we're coming at you in May. That's Graham Elwood and myself for the Progressive Comedy Tour. May 1st, I will be in Indianapolis. That's just going to be me, but I'll be in Indianapolis on May 1st. And June, the Progressive Comedy Tour is coming to the East Coast. New York City, New Haven, Connecticut, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Maryland, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Boston, Massachusetts. Tickets available now at ronplacone.com, and more dates are coming in as they're announced. For all my LA friends, all my LA folk, Politics Night at the Dojo is coming up this Wednesday. So if you're in LA and you want to come to Politics Night at the Dojo, just tweet at me. I'll throw you on the guest list. If you can support this show on the sustainability end, please do consider becoming a patron. Patreon.com/RonPlacone. For a give what you can level, you get all kinds of exclusive content, and you help me expand this show and keep this show on the air. And it's a give what you can level. So no matter what you give, everyone gives all the same stuff. So if you have an extra $1 a month and can throw it my way, great. If not, hey, your support here means everything in the world. Please like these shows, share these shows, tell your friends. You know how it goes. This has been Get Your News On with Ron. We'll be back tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time, right here over on YouTube. And also on Twitter, on Facebook. This has been Get Your News On with Ron. Thank you guys so much for being part of this. I will see you tomorrow. Peace.